this is all you have, but it's still something. Streets and sodium lights, the sky, the world, you're still alive. The road to healing is going to be a long one. Stay the course. You will make it someday. I know there's not much to say, but if nothing else, just remember that you've made it this far, and it's just a bit farther now. Let's finish this.
I am la Revacholière. I am the city. I need you. You can keep me on this earth. Be vigilant. I love you.
Like one of those things where it's like, I didn't have to take the picture. I didn't have to go up to him. He didn't have to talk to me about any of that. It has nothing to do with the point of the game. Except it does, because that is the point of the game, right? We think it's about the hanging. We think it's about finding our own identity, but it's really about, like, finding our identity through finding out about the world. And, like, how that plays a role in us. Ugh. Oh, the music is so good. I wish I had like a concise theory, and the truth is, like, I'm okay with the fact that I don't have one. It's been like just such a beautiful experience. It's weird because, like, of course the point of the game is like you're a detective. You're solving a case. It feels like the case is actually the background plot behind all of like these emotions and just like the way that a person is stumbling through life. It feels like it is an analysis on like the brain, and just that's the main point of it, which is so cool. Anyways, I'm gonna actually go through the island stuff now. God, even the boat scene was so cool. Wow. Okay, I finished the game, and I'm realizing, like, last night when I finished it, I didn't ever film my thoughts. Well, my fingers are like rubbing it, sorry. My thoughts are like concise opinions on it. I'm literally in my jammas. If you hear my cat eating, I'm sorry. I missed some stuff. Like a lot of the context of what's happening with Harry's ex. So I don't really know what's happening there. I didn't get the nap scene dream, but I am gonna be replaying it. Before I even make this video, like, I'm going to be playing through every single bit in piece. But I thought it'd be like a good thing for me to film these as I'm going, just to be able to look back, thoughts, etc. The Fasmid thing was really odd, but really nice. I really liked it. I just don't know the significance yet. It's like one of those things where, like, I have to sit with the ending for a bit to kind of figure out exactly why I found it really special. Because I found it very insignificant, but really, that was what I was hoping for. I was really, really hoping that the ending of the game was going to leave a lot open and wasn't going to tie everything up and just say it. And part of it, I think, is because of the fact that they wanted a second game, maybe. And it's just, like, by some of the writing, at the end, it kind of sounded like they were hinting at a second game. Like, being like, we have a lot more work to do. And that's something I'm going to talk about in my criticism section, which is just that it does feel like there's certain things that are like, oh, there's going to be a second game, and there isn't. Though if they ever make one, please. But I literally, when playing it, I was like, man, I really hope that they don't end this thing with them answering every single thing about Harry. And then, like, you know, making it be, like, this big, big thing. I would enjoy it no matter what. But I think it's a lot more enjoyable when, I mean, things just feel mysterious and in some ways insignificant. You're just playing as this protagonist with this storyline that you don't get all the answers on because he didn't get all the answers on it. And I think that's really, really awesome. Like, I actually really like it. Man, what a beautiful game. I really liked, at first I didn't really like the fact that the deserter was the guy behind it. Because, like, this, like, little entertainment film noir part of my brain was like, oh, I want it to be, like, someone that we know. I want it to be like, you? But I don't know. I think I like it. Over the course of the conversation and learning more about him, it was really interesting. And, like, the argument of, like, individualistic people exist, and like, Martinaise, and he's, like, very full of wrath towards people that are individualistic, but his reasonings behind killing was individualistic. It was desire, selfish, lonely desire, which was cool. I thought it was interesting, and that whole sequence was really cool. Music was so good. Oh god, the scene on the boat going to the island with, I think it's Burn Baby Burn. I think that's what the title is. I've been listening to the soundtrack. But, oh, the music is incredible. Like, there's so much that I want to dive into. That's all for right now.
My heart is the wind corridor. The bottom of my hair is red. Come morning, I carry industrial dust and let it settle on tree leaves.
Hi, it's been a minute. Oops, I would say sorry, but, like, life happens. Such as, like, life altering. Oh, hi, my cat. Please don't knock over my film setup is actually insane. Hi, this is Mimi.
I am la Revachol.
She wanted to introduce herself. Here, let me show you guys my filming setup. I know a lot of you were like, you need to get, like, better audio. You need to get, like, a camera. No, I don't wanna. I'm broke. So hold on, let me show you guys my filming setup. Yeah, the design is very human. That's a toaster. What are you doing? Okay. I kick my snake skins up in the air. So here's the ordeal. Mimi, can you get out of the way? Wanna come here? You can come here. Don't show them your ass. But, okay, here's the ordeal. Yes, I posted my trailer, like, back in October of last year, and it is May. This is probably getting posted in June if I had to guess. But, you know, I don't like to make a video unless I have something to say. Like, if something, like, impacts me in such a way that I feel, like, motivated to make a video essay, then I will actually make one. And Disco Elysium is a game that changed my worldview, and I'm not really fully exaggerating. I had a lot happen in the past. Ooh, wow, 3 years, my bad. Who did that? But essentially, ouch happened to my head, and then I developed seizures. This was, like, a very life-altering situation for me. It's still ongoing. It has been 2 years. And Disco Elysium kind of struck me at the perfect time to be existential. I'm going to time mark or whatever the video, so if you want to skip to just when I start talking about it, feel free. But I do feel like it is sort of it means a lot to me to be able to talk about what happened to an extent. Like, I'm not going to talk about actually what happened, but I am going to talk about, like, my viewpoint and how things changed for me afterwards, because I think it adds to why I felt this video was necessary and why I feel like I have a good commentary on said topic. Essentially, after I, developed seizures, it was really bad, and so I couldn't drive for a while, and I would walk to my job. you know, a lot of people in this country have to walk to their jobs or have to walk to school, things of that sort. It's really difficult in America, if you don't live in a city, you don't live in a walkable community, to do that. I do not really live in a walkable community. People would look at me like I was insane, like clutching their pearls, like, who is she shambling through the small patch of woods? It's like 3 trees. These walks to my job in the morning became this rock for me during a very dark and difficult time. I'm not grateful that something horrible and life-altering happened to me. I am grateful for my worldview shifting and my like take on everything around me shifting, because it made me appreciate things a lot more. It made me appreciate the mundane. These walks to my job, I would get up super early in the morning because I was typically like an opener, and it would feel like, you know, those drives after like Christmas Eve, you're like going home as a kid, and like the lights, like the traffic lights are like flashing, and you, like the windows cracked, and there's like this cool breeze coming in. You might live somewhere a lot colder than I did. It's the best way I can describe it is like that. The sun would be like cresting over the horizon line just a little, and there'd be like this bluish tint to the sky. And I would walk past this bakery. I've never gone to this bakery to this day. It still is like within a few minutes of me. And because I was morning shift, that was when they'd be baking the donuts and the pastries. I have a sweet tooth, not like that much to like go out and seek pastries, you know? But there's something like really beautiful to me about my little walk and like smelling the donuts baking, seeing the sun like crusting on the horizon, these things that like most people aren't ever going to have to experience because they have cars, they can drive themselves. Like this felt like a moment that was made for me. Like even the people that are baking the donuts, they aren't outside, they aren't seeing the sun crusting over the horizon in the way that I am. They aren't breathing in fresh air. They're of course like doing their job, they're doing labor. I'm walking and just breathing this fresh air and smelling donuts, and it was just sort of like surreal to me, I guess, because it felt like I could finally be grateful for these small things. I would see like all these little flowers blooming, and it was just like the most beautiful thing in the world to me. And I still feel that way. It's not nearly as extreme as it was back then, but like all these small, tiny things are what makes life. And it's like what we like are here for. And it goes further than that. It's like seeing my friends on a weekly basis, playing games with them, like playing D&D, and like being on like voice call with them, playing games and watching movies, and sharing a bowl of popcorn with someone. These are things that like make up my life. Like I'll have friends that'll come to me about these major, exciting, like huge updates in their life, and for me, like my version of that is sharing a bowl of popcorn with someone. And I think that that's beautiful. I know that it's kind of sad to a degree because like I'm still going through a lot. Like I still have like a journey in front of me to work through everything, but like sometimes it is just about like sharing a moment with friends, or going for a walk and smelling the donuts baking at 6 a.m, sitting alone by a creek and throwing rocks in and picking out little like shells on the shoreline. And so this all ties into my video because Disco Elysium captures that feeling. There's these beautiful, beautiful, mundane details in the game, and they make the experience so gorgeous, like genuinely gorgeous. And so, of course, I'm going to be going over a bunch of different categories. I'm going to have it like sectioned off. I will, once again, I'll put timestamps in there. And I apologize for this intro being longer. I know I got complaints about that last time. I like to yap. Sorry. I just think that adding context behind why I would be a good person to talk about this is important to a degree. I think that context, I don't know, it's something I wanted to share at least. So, I guess without further ado, let's get started.
I shake the dust from those leaves and onto your coat. I've seen you.
I feel kind of like an iPad baby. I don't really have a script per se as an outline because truthfully, I find it hard to put into words on a page what the game makes me feel. So, well, my lash just fell out. So, the first thing I kind of wanted to go over, which I hope you guys like the fit. Whoa, almost attacked myself. I can't really tie a tie, but you know what, it's fine. I'm sure Harry Dubois is the same. The first thing I wanted to start with was talking about the history of the game IRL, like how it came to be, how it got created. It was made by Robert Kurvitz, as well as some of his friends. It started off as a novel. I believe it's called Sacred and Terrible Air. If it's not, I will put it right there. It was actually like months later from when I filmed that. I got depressed. And also I started working on something else, which I'll talk about at the end of the video, but whatever. So, by the age of 15, Kurvitz had dropped out of school. He became part of a group of peers called the Overcoats, a group of 5 to 10 high school dropouts, anarchists of some sort, with the motto, "Today we drink tea, tomorrow we rule the world." Long pen and paper role-playing sessions with this group were the beginning of the world that would become Disco Elysium's Elysium. And former Overcoats would form the core of the group that coalesced into the Zayum Cultural Association, not to be confused with the Zayum Studio in the early 2000s. In 2013, Kurvitz published the novel Sacred and Terrible Air, on which he'd worked on for over 5 years. The novel, set in the fictional world of Elysium, centers on 3 men who 20 years after the unexplained disappearance of their classmates are still determined to locate them. In that novel, we bear witness to 1, a style which seems to be in its actually realistic and simply reflective way to be attentive towards the world to an almost paranoid degree, and 2, to a made-up world which in its relentless interconnectedness is far more systemic than the reality we recognize as our own, and also remarkably more systemic than most of the fictional ones. Despite its positive critical reception, the book was a commercial failure, selling between 1,000 and 1,500 copies, and causing Kurvitz to succumb to deep alcoholism. Having played tabletop role-playing games for much of his life, Kurvitz uses world-building techniques derived from Dungeons and Dragons, though opting for a pseudo-modernist fantasy world instead of a pseudo-medieval one. Love that. He employs help in the development of his ideas. Mass editing was employed as a tool in the finishing stage of the book. People of varying backgrounds assessed the readability and realism of the work, pointing out confusing passages and suggesting amendments. Kurvitz was the game's lead writer and designer, having produced about half of the total in-game text, aka 500,000 words. One of my favorite details is, and it just like, shatters me to my core. It's, despite critical success in Kurvitz's native Estonia, the book panned commercially. It sold just 1,000 copies and he succumbed to deep alcoholism. His friends and creative partners picked him up from his slump and suggested he make a video game set in the world instead. It was novelist Kaur Kender, hopefully the pronunciation's right, or more specifically his children, who came up with the idea, and their collaborator and Disco Elysium's eventual art director, Alexander Rostov, who said, My friend, we failed at so many things. Let us also fail at making a video game. And then they created Disco Elysium, which has just had universal success, just all around. It's won awards. It's amazing. Like, I think that it is beautiful, the story behind it, because like I'd said before, like a huge part of our lives is friendship, right? And these like moments that you share with another, I feel like that is reflected in the writing. It feels personal and it feels intimate, to a degree. I think that it's just, I mean, so beautifully done. We're gonna go over everything.
Calling. Still calling. End of tone. Someone picks up.
Now that we've talked about the IRL creation of the game, let's talk about the game's sort of timeline overview. It follows a amnesiac cop whose name is Harry Dubois, as well as his partner, Kim Kitsuragi, who is from like a sister like crime unit that is within Revachol. The game starts with this very beautiful dialogue and this beautiful music.
You don't have to do anything anymore. An inordinate amount of time passes. It is utterly void of struggle. No ex-wives are contained within it. A sensation. Like a fly to the ointment, your conscience sticks to it. The limbed and headed machine of pain and undignified suffering is firing up again. It wants to walk the desert, hurting, longing, dancing to disco music.
Really gets quick into showing you that Harry is a mess. And that is one of my favorite parts of the game, and I think what a lot of people's favorite is that the game's not afraid to show you the main person you are playing as is not the best person ever, but to even say that is to flatten his character. He is multifaceted, complicated, very, very, very difficult to say good or bad. From here on out, there is a murder investigation that he has been sort of set onto that he has been failing at doing. You learn that he's just been drinking, he's been slacking off, the people in town do not like him, as well as the military in general. They don't really love the police because they have abandoned this part of the city. And so it kind of follows him being this like superstar cop while also being
authority.
A really, really
Yes.
not so good cop
Authority.
and person.
Fevers thoughts race
Once
through
again,
your
that's where we
mind.
get into like sort of this multifacetedness. It's
Why?
really, really interesting.
This is not what he thinks
So,
it is.
let me
This
get
is a
into
great idea.
the first real
afraid it's not.
category.
The tattooed mesk next to him smiles. That's Kuno, all right.
The Children of Martinaise. Okay, so this is going to kind of tie into the next category as well. The Children of Martinaise are really, really important because through children you can kind of get a grasp for a setting and how harsh the world is. It's really sad, but it is true because of how like messed up this like world is. The kids, like what they do for fun, the way that they interact with the world around them, it is just so telling. Kuno and Kuno-S, while they are immediately perceived as annoying kind of joke comedic relief characters to a degree, actually have quite sad storylines. I mean, Kuno-S is implied to have killed someone before. Don't know much more about that. I've played the game multiple times. I don't know if anyone has been able to like investigate that further. I never have. So if anyone knows what that's about, comment. Kuno, I'll talk about a little bit more in a bit, but he is a kid that is heavily, heavily abused and neglected by his father and is like only acting out the way he is because of his home life. That quest line involving Kuno's dad makes my heart ache every single time. And this sort of gets into the next thing within this category, which is their idle animations. The idle animations of the children are really interesting. At least I'm gonna show you guys one of them that I literally like want to tear up at, just because I think it's beautiful. I don't know, maybe I'm just sensitive. I just think it's really pretty. There's a child in the fishing village that has no pertinence to the story, the child that lives there. And when you walk into the home, she's holding her doll and she's sitting on her bed and she's kind of like playing with it. She'll start humming to her kid, her little doll. I think it's so sweet, and it has to do with how effective like the bleak world building is to be able to find such a sweet moment like that. There's of course the kids that are kind of outside that area. I think they're her brothers, that give you some like important information in regards to finding Ruby. The way you interact with kids in the world, there's also the teenagers on the ice, gives you a lot of insight into Harry as a character, and you find that stuff out later, and that knowing that Harry was a gym teacher, a middle school gym teacher, and cares for kids actually quite a bit, and it starts to make sense, like why you talk to Kuno so much, why you're so insistent on like trying to help in these moments, or talking to one of the teenage girl that's on the ice. You can have like a mental breakdown.
Hello again.
The device is still warm from her touch and heavy as a brick from the batteries inside. The company logo, Omicron, adorns its yellow plastic cover. Inside, the tape is rolling. The girl looks at the device in your hands. She looks you in the eye, her pupils wide, surrounded by a ridiculous amount of makeup. The wind howls. She remains silent. It's real. Tell her.
What is? I can't believe this turned into another mic thing. Fine. Okay, I'll stick to it. I'll knock it out in 3 rounds.
Something changes between you two. She looks at you differently now. As an equal. A fellow human being.
So thanks, I guess, for the psych session. Maybe I can return it. What's been eating you, officer?
That's what happened in my game, which was like just so like, oh my god, dude, stop. But it makes sense why he would have a mental breakdown in this moment, because there's like this memory that's sitting right there, but I can't remember fully. Kim even makes a comment about it in like your own tribunal at the end with like your coworkers, Harry's coworkers, about being like, you're a gym teacher, that's why you wouldn't leave Kuno alone. And like, I love that. The next thing I'm gonna talk about is Kuno alone. There is, of course, and not many people have gotten it, and not many people like it because it'll reload, but there is an ending where Kuno goes with you to the island. I've never personally gotten that ending. I've seen some clips from it though. I think it's really actually cute and sweet, because something that you learn about Kuno throughout the game is not just that he's this troubled kid, but that like hates authorities. He kind of wants to be like you. And this is just like his kind of way of engaging with the police. It's so he can see things up close. In my playthrough, when the body was still up in the tree and you shoot it down, afterwards Kuno's idle animation changes. And what it changes to, I'll show up on the screen, but it's him pretending to shoot the body down because he's like trying to mimic you. And that detail I didn't notice till like my third time playing, and I was like, that's like so cool, because it foreshadows the fact he wants to be like you. If you pass that empathy check to understand why Kuno is the way that he is, it will give you insight on that, and I'll hopefully be able to show it here if I can find the footage for it. It's actually quite hard because I played it on my Switch, so.
Slow to let go of Revachol. Flecks some more wet snow from above. The snow falls lazily, making the beach sand paler still, mixing with the rust-colored sewage runoff. And to think, it seemed as though it were already spring. The melting snow seeps through your thin clothes. Grandmothers don't let their grandchildren out dressed so lightly in this weather. You look around. More winding coastlines lined with abandoned buildings. Crumbling piers, salt water lapping at their dark piles. Grey and red forgotten city blocks. What remains of the pre-revolutionary effort to gentrify the coast. The waters turn black. Coal City in the shadow of San Martin, a boom town. Back when coal extracted from countless shafts near the city was needed to power Revachol. No more. The coal was supplanted by petroleum from the ocean floor and hydropower from the Esperance. Everything crumbled. These days, only the weakest remain in Coal City. Their hopes of getting rich linger in the defunct shafts under their feet. Below the old mines, l'Océan Municipal, Revachol's underground cemetery. Le Petit Rat braved the underground passageways, trying to get to Le Royaume. Children under 14, they go underground looking for artifacts to sell to foreign museums, and for fabled relics. Their parents let them. They go deeper. After rubies, melchiorite, lapis lazuli, plundered from Safle and Seol during the time of the suzerain, in the burial chambers of the kings, Grand Old Philip, Guillaume II, and even in the mausoleum of Philip the Opulent. 2 kilometers underground, in a winding shaft along whose walls mirrors have been placed, so that daylight may eternally fall upon the richest of all the kings. The mausoleum contains untold quantities of gold, and that special, purest of the pure magenta cocaine, favored by Revacholian royalty. Did someone say untold quantities of cocaine? Drop everything immediately and go looking for this hoard. How can it be pure if it's magenta?
I've seen you. I've seen you with her. And I've seen you without her.
A big thing to talk about is the women in Disco Elysium. It is a really, really interesting topic to me. Ruby, super interesting character. Okay, so there's gonna be a few times where I hop in because I just didn't think I explained something super well or didn't go as in detail as I now know. I've just been filming this for like a good while, so some like things I've learned more about over the course of like editing. And one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit more is Ruby, as well as Clausier to an extent as well, just because I'm a lesbian, I'm gay, and so this is something that like kind of piqued my interest, and I thought was really interesting was Ruby's relationship with the Hardy Boys, which are sort of Martinaise's like police force in a way, like citizen militia. I was sort of looking into history of queer women in like blue collar spaces, and of course the like Hardy Boys, they're the union workers, so they're all like blue collar, and she's a truck driver or a lorry driver. And something that I thought was interesting, Kim E. Nielsen cited the straight state in her 2012 work, A Disability History of the United States, noting that the same bureaucratic measures that marginalize citizens for their sexuality It functions similarly for those with disabilities. Now, we can even push that up the ladder even more to blue-collar workers in the way that the government has historically treated blue-collar work, which is not good. And that there is some level of solidarity between someone who's in a marginalized community and a group of people who are actively being beaten down by the government. And it really does add up for the Hardy Boys and how they function, is that they are over the fact that like the RCM just hasn't been helping them. And so I thought that this was really interesting to be able to like apply that there. So it also makes sense why like she would be drawn to that type of work, is that there is like solidarity that exists there. Which of course I will link this article as well as another one that I just thought was interesting below in case anyone wants to read about that. But that's what I really enjoy about Ruby and her contribution to the story, is that it was a really interesting sort of twist on like protective, like almost like countrymen. I love Titus Hardy for that. Like I think that he's like a really cool character. And how like protective he is of his people, and he has this really strong like vindication. But of course this section is about women, so I don't want to go too far into that. I think that Ruby is really, really interesting because she was so quick to help Clausier. It's clear that there is something going on between the two of them. In fact, I believe that it is confirmed, at least hinted at in dialogue. And the fact that she immediately acted and plays like the central role in it. Yeah, no, she's a really cool character. So that's kind of what I wanted to add in. Another thing that is from this article that I think is interesting to bring up is, while acknowledging the brutality of the Lavender Scare narrative, Canaday cautions readers against using it as a shorthand for this period because many employers also realized a fearful workforce was an exploitable one in which bargains abounded. Since a gay or a lesbian worker with superior talent and skill would go to a lower position or status in return for the promise of employment, fear, argues Canaday, enabled employers to hire skilled workers for less pay and retain them. I really think that when they were creating the game, that the entire purpose of throwing Ruby in there was to talk about the exploitation of like queer employees in a very bleak world, but it does like make sense. And I kind of think that like everyone, not just queer individuals, in like Martinaise and Revachol are struggling for the most part, other than, you know, of course, like White Pines and the big names. But I do think it's just like an interesting thing to bring up, I suppose. Clausier, I mean, she's so fascinating, and she's one of those characters that in the story it kind of proves like how Harry is an unreliable narrator, as all of the skills are kind of like wrapped around her finger, and if you pass like a certain check around it, you become aware of that and you start to realize like what the skills inside your brain are telling you about Clausier is not reliable information and that you shouldn't trust it.
What brings you up here in the rain?
Soft, light brown eyes look back at you, directly into the space behind your eye sockets. You see the smoke rise from between her painted red lips. She's beautiful. I have bad news for you. You know these guys? Who? Me? Yes, you. He's talking about you, you boring stiff. You too. Me? What did I do? These guys are compromised. She's got them singing along to her tune. The little bleeps and bloops you trust for info, you can't trust them anymore. I'm sorry I didn't catch it sooner. It takes conscious effort on your part. There's no way of knowing. At the moment, I'm afraid it's best to assume. All of them. Bullshit, man. I ain't compromised. Especially that guy. That guy's the most compromised one in here. No fucking way, man. I just want a drag of that sweet menthol Ziggy. Really? Quick, tell me what's under her jumpsuit. Glory, truth, softness. Protect her. She wants you. He can't draw a sound conclusion. The one he usually does says, she may want to control the information rollout, not to become a suspect. She may have a past she's escaping, unrelated to this case. You doubt it's something truly insidious. See? It's oddly moderate, probably compromised. For a second, her face disappears from your cornea. Only a silvery negative remains. Still smiling, a tired smile.
And that moment was like so interesting to watch play out. I love that detail because yeah, like in the psyche, like you can't always rely on it. And so if we're following a character's psyche so closely, I think it'd be a disservice to not have like a moment like that. Now, the big part of women in Disco Elysium, of course, that I should be talking about is Dora. Truthfully, my first run, I did not get the scene where you talk to her as Dolores Day because I never did the church. I didn't know you could get inside of it. I don't know how I did that. Whoops. But I've watched the cutscene now. And also I know of the symbolism at play of her being represented by Dolores Day. This kind of ties into the hidden in plain sight thing. But Joyce's boat, if you pass a conceptualization check, I believe, to name her boat, the name that you come up with is Dora, and it's just kind of like shrugged off after that.
Below, the sleek, fish-like shape of the hull parts the water. Beneath that, a resounding darkness. You're reminded of something, or someone.
Okay. How about Cordelechi 19? Why? Because it was manufactured in Revachol East by a company called Cordelechi, and its hull is 19 paces long.
She makes a point of being unromantic about it.
The X something. The X what? Very absurd. Thank you for the suggestion. I will stick with the factory name for now, but thank you.
Which also ties into the water thing. There's sort of like this like liquid symbolism that is prevalent throughout the game.
Is hanging from the board. Without resistance or sound, the
In Le Jardin, the day we went east of the river, to the aquarium first, I was sad about my mother. I don't even know why. The shimmer of the fish tank on my face, the octopuses.
Your voice echoes on the water, strange and out of place in the environment.
The dream sequence, though, with Dora, or Dolores Day, is also has a big feature of water. You walk across like a watery like crosswalk to get to her, and it's her leaving. It's like a random, like, they ran into each other kind of on the corner, and he realized that she was going.
Not yet.
And
There is one
she
more thing
talks
you
about
have
how
to
she is pregnant, and talks about how she had
I'm
terminated her child
Of course
with
not.
Harry because he
I
was going
terminated
insane.
yours.
Her reasoning
Don't
is
you
completely
remember?
understandable. She
Sad Harry.
did not want to have a child
So
with him
sad.
because he was unstable. She
People
mentions
can't
the fact
get
that
that
he would
sad.
start beating
It's
things
impossible to
and
watch. Other
just
people
sounded
get
like
sad
he was
too,
ill,
but
like he was
not
not
like
mentally
you.
well, and so she didn't want to
You
stay.
stay down for
So she
years,
left, she found someone
and then
new,
you
and
start
she's
beating
pregnant.
things.
And she's
You get
consistently
violent.
throughout the game
In
represented
conclusion,
by
you're ill.
Dolores Day or
You're an
the
old,
Innocence
insane man.
Party, which is,
And you have
of
to
course,
be in
a
hell
religion
until the
in
end
the
of your
world.
life.
And so I decided to look into like the lore behind the Innocence Party, like why that representation is. I think the first surface level thing that we can draw a conclusion from is he is still so hung up on her that it is like worship, right? Like she is this symbol of innocence. He sees her as this like light that slipped away from her that he just wants to grab and bring back when she does not want him around. Now, going through some of the lore here, she was, of course, known as humanity's young mother, a perfect mother, which would make sense why he associates the two of them so much. She has blonde hair like her, and also he wanted to have a kid with her. He once again, I kind of talked about it in the Children of Martinaise section, why that stuff is so important, and like with Kuno, these things that add to his character, it's all building to this moment of realizing like he wanted to have children with her, but he couldn't. Like, his job drove him mad. And of course, not to say that there's not any personal responsibility that he needed to be taking for his horrible actions, but there is like some tragedy about his job taking over his life, taking over his mental health. That is sort of a major takeaway that we are supposed to be taking from the game, and I think it's a pretty clear message throughout like all of the different story points is, yes, we as people, we are accountable for our own actions, but let's look at the root of where some of these actions are coming from, and let's have a very, very deep and nuanced conversation about where this is originating from and how working and jobs and overworking and the bleakness of the world and these really horrific things that he would witness. I mean, he something that is like known is that he was deeply overworked by his precinct. I mean, the amount of cases he would solve had Kim like shocked. So she even mentions it in that dialogue about the fact that he was going insane and that she did not want him around. Now, this really makes sense with the lore of Dolores Day and why like this imagery is kind of mixed up.
Oh yes, she looked like humanity's young mother, a perfect mother, insultingly beautiful. It was as if her face and shoulders and hands were covered in a soft down of underfeathers. You know this well, very well. Midwinter snow was beating the cobblestones around her. A small attaché of officials stood by as her Theriers placed a white gold wreath on her head. The crowning was mostly witnessed by Secret Servicemen. One of the men in this Secret Service killed her 22 years later, a young man who had come to suspect that Dolores Day was not entirely human, but something else, something that had walked in our midst, watching us stumble for hundreds, if not thousands of years, until it decided to interfere in the course of our history. We were supposed to come up with this ourselves. The man was reported to have screamed at the innocents. Dolores Day was shot in the chest with a fowling piece 8 times. The man, thought to be insane, said he once touched her and her body had been unnaturally warm, like a furnace, and that sometimes, while on duty, he observed her forgetting to breathe for over 10 minutes. This inhuman quality was witnessed by many others as well, glowing lungs and all. It is commonly attributed to mass hysteria and religious psychology. Terrifying is a term too emotionally charged for your semantic memory, or what remains of it. But terrifying, it's a simple word. She was bad for humanity, and you shouldn't have started thinking about her. Little is known of her Marchese husband. It's as if he vanished from history after completing his role, which was to introduce Dolores Day to court. In conclusion, yes, there is something lonely, paranoid, and even terrifying that people seldom mention, but feel when they think of her. This subtle terror is part of her iconography.
Lieutenant Yefreitor, you've stood there for over 5 minutes.
Dolores was shot in the chest and the man was thought to be insane, said he once touched her and her body had been unnaturally warm like a furnace. I think this is a really interesting detail. I wonder if this is just sort of like to subconsciously get like our heads turning. But in the place where Cindy is staying, the furnace room, that's where you find like the apricot chewing gum wrapper that smells like Dora. And it's almost like they're trying to do like this like subconscious association of like the imagery of like a furnace with apricots and us going, oh, like Dolores Day, Dora, like they're working in the background to get us to make that association, which I think is really cool. I hardly doubt that is a coincidence. I really think that that's intentional. Another thing being that her lungs would glow whenever she was named as the head of the Innocence Party. That's kind of where that imagery comes from. I'm not 100% sure what the symbolism here is. She was so overcome with emotion that her lungs started glowing in her chest. That's why the lungs are a symbol of love for cultures of the real belt. I think if I had a theory about it, and this could be like super, super off, at least this is what the symbolism like I would play with if I were the one writing. When you think of drowning, you think of the lungs, water filling them. I feel like that is the imagery that is being played with, is the thought of loving her so much that your own lungs like fill with water and burn, while hers are like glowing. It also, like, of course, I'd mentioned it before, but the music going way near the water. Church scene is beautiful. Like, I truly, truly find it gorgeous. I want to get a tattoo, like, of that mural so bad, or either that or the Fasmid, I don't know. I love this game so much, obviously, but Dolores / Dora, I think, is such a beautiful character, because it's one of those moments for me where when playing it, I'm like, I cannot justify Harry's actions. I cannot. It is disgusting. Like, the way that he behaves, it is so hard to be able to like play as that like perspective, as that character, but it is so irreverently interesting to just see his like mind like turning in these like horrible ways during that conversation, the way you can talk to her, the way the game wants you to talk to her. The only other game that I've seen kind of force your hand like this is Night in the Woods. So if you haven't played that game, I guess like minor spoiler, throughout many parts of the game, May, the character you're playing as, she is not a morally great person, and the game will force you into these like conflicts with her friends and stuff, and it just is like, oh my god, May, get it together. It's a similar thing, except this really, really goes into detail about it and is just like so beautiful. I also love the detail that like Dolores Day as a deity like is known to be subtly terrifying. Like there's like something off about her, and of course the only reason like why this was created, like, don't be fooled by the world building. This is no coincidence. Dolores Day was created after Dora, at least in my opinion. She is built around that symbolism. They essentially looked at how they wanted the main character to look at Dora and like treat that relationship, and went, okay, and what would a deity that we could draw parallels between like look like? There is something lonely, paranoid, and even terrifying that people seldom mention but feel when they think of her. That is, of course, what it is like being in Harry Dubois' mind when thinking about Dora. And so it starts to make sense why he almost has these like blurs in like reality and religious, like almost like a psychosis in a way about her, because they're so like, these feelings are so similar. The lore is so similar, and it's also, I believe, like the most popular religion that people follow. So I almost want to believe, and maybe this is something that's confirmed, maybe it's not. I'm not 100% sure. There's over 1 million words in this game. Crazy, I know. It kind of insinuates that that was a religion that he somewhat had followed, to have known all of this, or at the very least has relatives or something. Like, it's not that the game, of course, is insinuating it, but just in the fact that he has the knowledge to be making this, like, mental jump, which is an amazing act of world building. It's like a world building 101, from someone who is a D&D DM and someone who went to school and studied storytelling, is that some of the best acts of world building and character building come from what isn't spelled out for people. So having someone have certain knowledge on something, suddenly there's a story there, right? Why would this character have that knowledge? Well, that must mean that, like, growing up he knew someone who had that vast amount of knowledge, or grew up going to said church. Or the other implication that's there is, like, maybe she was religious like that. Maybe that's what she followed. And even then, that just, it ties together like this beautiful package of, like, he remembers these things about her and associates them, and it's beautiful. The love he has for her is a beautiful thing that is horrifying, like horrifyingly beautiful, because we've seen at other points in the game the way he's treated women. Sylvie is a great example. That was rough. When I first played it and I did the phone call to Sylvie and realized that we made her so uncomfortable, it just was this moment where I was like, oh, it's so hard playing as this character. You can't blame Dora for leaving him, and truthfully, like, he blames his mental spiral on her, but in that final, like, dream sequence, of course, unreliable narration, but she does say that he was already going insane. And Kim talks about earlier in the game, about how the amount of cases he takes would drive anyone mad. Like, it was just too much. It's impressive, but it's too much. His team talks about how insane he's gone, and his partner does mention the fact that it got worse after Dora, but I do believe that the behavior, I mean, she saw it behind closed doors, was definitely prevalent before then. It just bled into his work after that. I think that there's a theme here about choking on love, and love not always being warm, or that warmth sometimes burning you. Of course, there's the drowning in it. I mean, water is commonly seen as, like, this liquid of life, like the basis for a lot, but you can also drown in that with too much. So I think it's beautiful, like, truly, truly beautiful. This is gonna be something that, like, is speculative, about the Tequila Sunrise motor carriage accident. The fact he drove it into the sea. Of course, she took, like, a plane, she left, and I think that part of it's, like, this, like, ridiculous, exaggerated, like, way of him being like, I want to go to her, like, I'm gonna drive through the sea while he's drunk. I also think that that's, like, such a huge act of symbolism, that, like, he drove into the sea in this, like, sorrow, and of course, like, nearly drowned trying to do so, and destroyed things around him in the act of love. But Dolores Dei translates from Latin as the sorrows of God, which I think is, once again, just beautiful. It's so hard to, like, say anything more than that, but more that I think is really beautiful in it. Holy gratitude of my bliss, I put my hand on my belly and I smile. Which is something that she says to Harry about the fact she's pregnant. Like, she puts her hand on her belly and she smiles at him.
In the holy gratitude of my bliss, I put my hand on my belly and smile.
The air gets cold around you. She looks down on her stomach, then up at you. Her eyes are full of tremendous distance and mystery.
There's something so, like, holy and radiant about this imagery of this woman, like, holding her belly and smiling. But to him, it's like being stabbed. She does not look back. Instead, she eyes her fingernails. They're bitten and frayed. The evening wind blows in, the gown wrapping her like a white flag. If you're familiar with this conversation, it doesn't go well for Harry. It is her being like, I'm leaving. I see this as two things of symbolism. And of course it comes from the white flag thing. We all know a white flag, it represents surrender and giving up. I see it as the world, like, ushering her to just give up, and that she's given up on him entirely. And I also see it as the world telling him to give up and to just accept it and to just surrender and walk away. And of course he doesn't do that. I also see it as, like, almost mockingly towards him. Because it reminds me a little bit of the dream sequence where the hanged man, or himself, drunk bloated corpse, tells him that he just watched her walk away. Oh man, I love this game. It's so good. This is definitely the longest section. I think it's, like, important though.
Real darkness has love for a face. The first death is in the heart, Harry. See you tomorrow.
Hidden in plain sight is what I like to refer to it as. It is this idea of building the world through the lens of someone with amnesia, as well as getting the player sort of really latched into, like, this narrative. I adore the method that they use here. My biggest example of this is the renaming of basic things within the world, changing, like, different parts of the world that clearly have roots in, like, our world's cultures, and just changing the names of it. There's this sort of feeling of overwhelming confusion when you start the game. It is actually one of the biggest criticisms that the game gets, and I don't agree with it, just because I think those people are missing the point. I can see how it could be, like, annoying for someone that, like, just wants to understand the setting. However, I think that that would be defeating, like, the purpose. Oh, hi Mimi, and she's back. Hush, you can get out of the way. They rename a ton of different things. The military works different, the world works different, and it is, like, sort of to give you this, like, feeling that you are confused and shambling through this world. They sort of use a technique that I'd said at the beginning, hidden in plain sight, to also make the mystery a lot more compelling. There's a lot of moments in it where I feel like they load the gun, right, point it at you, and you don't even notice until the trigger is pulled. My favorite moment of it, and not everyone was as surprised by this as me, so maybe this is just my biased experience, but the motor carriage, finding that submerged, was shocking to me that it was Harry's. That sounds, like, ridiculous, like, everything in his character it makes sense for, but what had gotten me, like, really stumped on it was that I was following Lena, the cryptozoologist, her storyline so closely, and this was really smart of the game devs to do, is to have her be introducing this quest line of her missing husband. He's on the other side of the waterlock. she's worried about him. She doesn't know where he is, like, exactly. And so I'm like waiting for that waterlock to, like, you know, be ready to go across. And of course there's like those hints around town. There's like tire marks. If you don't have a high, like, motorics skill, you won't have a good enough perception to be able to notice like certain things around. One of them being that it is most likely your fault that the gate is broken, and if you don't get that, you don't really get like many hints. All these people around town are talking about this crazy driver that, like, you know, broke the water lock. And of course, like, looking back, I'm like, of course I should have known, but I didn't at all. And so it made that thing with the water lock, whenever you go across and you see that motor carriage, that scene was so emotional for me. And sitting on the swing set waiting for it to go, like, I had that, like, naivety as well that Harry has in it, where you can have all those options of being like, man, crazy driver, wonder who did that. Even with seeing the alcohol around, I just didn't piece it together. And I think that that's, like, so well done, because that's just one example of this being done throughout the game. One of the clues that you might look over is the deserters' footprints in like the attic space, or like that upstairs area in the Whirling in Rags, being near Clausier's room. And that's something you notice, right, during the game, but it's like kind of something that goes to the side. It's like, that's weird, but who knows? The Fasmid is a really great example of hidden in plain sight. I mean, quite literally hidden in plain sight. It is a creature made of reeds. The answer's right there the whole time. The cryptozoologists, they're kind of cracked up to be like a little kooky and weird, and like it just feels like this questline that's gonna build to nothing, or at least just like a sweet moment or something. And it becomes part of the actual storyline, like what happens at the end, a reminder of it, and I'll touch on it later whenever I actually talk about the Fasmid, but the whole reason why the deserter went mad was because of the poison of the Fasmid, which is really, really interesting. There's sort of this theme of like all returns to nature. This is something I know not many people know about. I'm sure in the community like people do. I don't really engage in it though, so I don't know. The expression isn't what you would think it is. It's kind of hinted at to be like something related to electrochemistry, something related to, I believe, encyclopedia at the very beginning when you look in the mirror. I don't know how I did it, what sort of check I did to get the thought from the thought cabinet. But you learn that the reason why Harry does the expression is lockjaw from being sick as a kid. And this is something I love about the thought cabinet, is there's all these different like things you unlock, and that is like truly where most of Harry's story comes from, is doing things around town that unlock these memories that you get to add to your skills. I mean, the lockjaw thing with the expression, the homosexual underground, well, funny, it does like start to make you go, oh, okay, like you have some repressed feelings there. All these different sort of pieces of him that come together and form this like really beautiful, just like mosaic to this really interesting and flawed character. Trant, is that his name? And your precinct, as well as the mercenaries. These are all things that are sprinkled into the world that are hidden in plain sight. You can see Trant with his child, Trant? I don't know how to pronounce his name. Trant, I don't know, Trant. Him and his child are by like the electrical building, the Feld,
and he'll give you like a lot of information, and then later he comes back in your own personal tribunal, and it's like, you were like, it felt like a betrayal of the century. Another thing is the precinct. Your two co-workers are there, your previous partner, and then your like other co-worker, the girl, I think her name was Jude? Something like that, it starts with a J. They're there in disguises, and it's so obvious in the game that they're like your coworkers, but whenever they popped up, I was like, I don't really know what to do with this information. It felt like a genuine Harry Dubois like moment for me, where I was like, I don't know what to do with this. So I'll just ignore it. But I feel like it, like, that was the intention, is sort of to get you being like, huh? Okay, whatever, we'll figure it out later. Because that's exactly what Harry would be thinking too, is like, Another thing is Clausier, when you first meet her in the beginning of the game, if you attempt to use the expression on her, that gets brought up later when you have to investigate her, and she says, this is gonna suck when you investigate me. And it does. Like, it actually does. Like, later on. I don't know why this was, like, mind-blowing for me, but it just feels like, oh my god, okay, you're watching me. Like, every word that I'm saying. The mercenaries. There's a guy that is over, like, with the strikebreakers, like the really, like, buff dude that's like, back to work. He obviously had some crazy stuff going on, and you can also get like a really cool shivers scene about him.
A monstrous shadow high above the fire traps of the domain. The 881 motorway running over this district of Jamrock. Concrete pillars rise up from the midst of the dilapidated wooden houses. On the horizon, barely visible, the hazy machinery of the harbor. Life in the domain is even worse off than in Martinaise. The cold air is stiff from the fumes of the motor carriages and lorries roaring overhead. Below, broken down, battered people mill on the dusty streets with no purpose. Yet amongst them, there is no sight of this man. Nowhere.
Yeah? What makes you say that?
It's similar to with the precinct, where it's like, well, what do I do with this information? Like, what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything to me yet, but there's something weird going on. It's just, like, disturbing, I guess. Like, the fact that they're, like, around you, like the mercenaries. Ruby, she wasn't as hidden in plain sight, I would say. Like, she was a little bit trickier to kind of catch wind of, and that was the intention. But, like, it was really cool. Like, her lorry always being there from the beginning, like, that I really enjoyed. Finding the guns down in the, like, catacombs area, tunnels underneath, which is hinting, of course, at the deserter. Next category. It would not be a Disco Elysium video if we don't talk about shivers. As well as the cop version that I cannot pronounce for the life of me. So, shivers is a skill that is the embodiment of the shivers that go down your spine when you think about things too hard. So, like, the idea of, like, you know, like driving in traffic and then looking around and realizing there's a person in every single one of those vehicles leading different lives. It, like, sends a shiver down your spine thinking about it. It is the embodiment of that sort of a feeling. I think it has some of the most beautiful dialogue in the game, some of them being like Kuno and Kuno-S being in the tunnels and them sleeping at night. It adds so much to their character, yet it's not something everyone gets. There's Tommy. I love Tommy. I think that he is, once again, something that embodies like that small detail. You can pass a check to notice that he's kind of looking off into the distance, and then you get shivers that will, like, lead you all the way down. If I can find footage of it, I will put it up.
It's hard to say. His gaze wanders southwest. down the street that goes beyond the horizon. The road continues for miles, flowing together with other roads, turning into causeways or bridges, ending suddenly in dead ends, or ramping up or down highways. It forms a crisscross pattern across the land. Above the Jamrock Quarter, in the form of a raised motorway, and then the never-ending sprawl of Forburg, high above buildings, new and old, the air filled with the rumble of motor engines. To the old south, to the farthest outskirts of Revachol, through the checkered fields of farmland, upstream to the river Esperance, past Martinaise, the border approaches. You cannot see. It's out of the city. Up ahead, the mist blocks all sight. A gale blows across your cheeks. It is cold. Before you stands a tall lorry driver with sad eyes.
Excuse me?
Is him looking off to where his family is, and you just have this lovely moment with a stranger who's just a pleasant guy. And then you can also have this really lovely exchange that it legit gives me shivers. It gives me goosebumps.
A flinch jolts his frame. The question has touched a nerve.
Man, I don't know what to say. Not much anyone can do. There's no helping in absence, you know. I miss my family. They're all I have. My wife, second kid on the way, waiting all the way in Diora. And here I am stuck in this shit, so far from home. What's it like? Good. And bad. An ache that brings you joy. I think of them a lot. I dream up these silly scenarios in great detail of living with them. It comforts me. What about you, Cop Man? You missing someone?
Is that what it is? This feeling? No, it's scarier than that. You're pursued by a hunter, smelling of apricots and sorrow, and the past.
I feel for you, my friend. It's bad enough to know who you miss. Missing like that doesn't feel like it has much of an upside. But, thanks for this. It's nice to talk to someone, and I know it wasn't easy to ask. I hope you find your way through your own troubles.
Another really brilliant shivers moment is, once again, not really mandatory, but I think most people do get this one, is pulling the ledger out of the garbage and noticing there's something rattling inside. And there's a compartment you can open, and it's Harry's ledger, and it is with a note from his ex, and it smells of apricots. That is kind of like a symbol that goes through it that I think is just a beautiful one.
Thin wax paper has been glued to a piece of cardboard. Sounds like leaves rustling when you pick it up. You see violet flowers, floral patterns, patches of glue. Familiar handwriting lines the inside of the card. Looped, round letters in a woman's hand. A young woman in her 20s. There is care, effort, and a smile, you think. Although that is not something you can read from someone's handwriting. Harry, it begins. You're already reading. I wanted to write you a letter so you can read it when you wake up. Maybe it will make you happy. Throw it away, please. Outside, you hear the wind howl. A sudden gale blows in from Martinaise, flapping street signs and window blinds.
Come outside.
It's the ledger you found in the trash, a cabbage of papers hanging from the board. Without resistance or sound, the two panels move against each other. Thin wax paper has been glued to a piece of cardboard. Familiar handwriting lines the inside of the card. Looped, round letters in a woman's hand. A young woman in her 20s. Harry, it begins. You're already reading. I wanted to write you a letter so you can read it when you wake up. Maybe it will make you happy. Throw it away, please. No. A merciful wind blows in from the bay of Revachol, dusting the ground at your feet and raising newspapers far away. You feel the card slipping into it. Now that you're out, let go.
Let go.
Frisson covers your entire body, a feeling of cold, a persistent chill. No, don't throw away the baggie. There's dust on the drug baggie. It's not good, but at least it's some kind of way to be together. Just like that, the wind picks it from your fingers. Cold, they let go. The wax paper rustles, a whisper light and low. Then a sudden gust raises the postcard to the drizzle-grey sky above, away from you. A small piece of paper dances above Martinaise, above slow waves crashing the shore, and the war-torn houses, and the new bâtiments devant alike. Above you, looking up to the grey sky, with your hair greasy and wet, and above the distant streets and the 881, even above the old fish market and the church. Its material existence is lost. This great city will pocket it for you. For your own sake, forget about it.
And Shivers is trying to get him to let go of the note. But if you hold on to it, you will faint and wake up in Kitsuragi's motor carriage, and he'll be like pouring water on you. And it's just like this really, really well done moment to me.
Room for hesitation. The lieutenant moves like a spring unloaded. He grabs the gun from your bloody hand and fires behind him.
Okay, Lieutenant Kitsuragi. He is a character that deserved his own section entirely. In particular, his neutrality and what role that sort of plays in the story. He is the, if we look at it in like a storytelling aspect and like just completely ignore all of the amazing things about him, he is a tool to get the player to understand different parts of the world and the way that the police work. That way you're able to progress through the game. And I think that's where his neutrality really, really shines, because you playing as Harry, like, you do feel like your decisions are the ones that are making the impact until, like, I would say as the game sort of progresses, like, you start to realize Kitsuragi's impact on Harry and his worldviews. You find out about him being a moralist. You find out about his past. If you have a high of, like, the cop shivers, like, if you have a high stat in that, you get a lot of insight there on his past, working in, like, medical examiner, I believe, for bodies, about, as well as his past partner that died. You get this really wonderful insight, and you start to be like, okay, that makes sense why he's so neutral, and why he steps back is that he doesn't really want to grow an attachment to people around him. I think returning to the swing set scene, he's like this invisible guiding hand, this force for Harry throughout it, where he doesn't want to spell things out for him. He wants him to figure things out on his own, because autonomy is an important thing. And it's also really wonderful for telling a story with amnesia, because if he were to go into this spelling things out, like, directly for all of us, I mean, what's the point of us as the player?
The lieutenant gives you a quick glance. Then, still looking straight ahead, he joins you with a higher pitched and slightly more melodic trill. Two birds on a wire, whistling by the seaside, looking at the water and the sunken car.
Well, historically, leeches have been used to prevent and even cure many ailments.
Okay, he's thinking, I can do this. Let's do this. Who'd want to sit on an anthill? There are no therapeutic benefits to.
Luckily, I am already a member of an independent organization, and therefore do not have to choose between a rock and a hard place. Detective, I've been able to make out the mark ever since we arrived. I find it odd that you haven't. It's a Coupris, Model 40. It is a simple and rugged machine, favored by working men, government offices, firefighters, animal control people, you know, those kinds of people. Yes, 41. What do you think it stands for?
It's as if he knows what it stands for, but wants you to say it. It's pedagogical. Does he know something?
Right. Or 41 is the number of a police precinct? Your precinct.
A massive pit opens up in your stomach, and the most terrible feeling comes over you. You feel like you're about to faint and fall off the swing. Your hands get clammy, and the air tastes sour to breathe. Oh God, Harry. Oh God, Harry. What did you do? No. Just nope. Say no to this, Harry.
Yes, your car is in the sea. Face it, so we can start dealing with this. There were never any street racers. It was always you. You drove your car in the sea.
The lieutenant just shakes his head.
And he also is this moral, like, rock to come back to, because he has this neutrality. And so when you act out, especially like with, this is like a rough scene, if anyone else has gotten this, like, oh my God, but if you fail the authority check against Titus and you like threaten to in front of everyone, afterwards the conversation where he chews you out is like painful, but it's also like there's this veil of care there of like, I know what you're going through, I know that this job is painful, but I need you to keep it together. Please keep it together.
Yes. Well, I was able to recontextualize it as a dark joke. I will not be able to recontextualize it the next time. No need to apologize.
The only times where he breaks that neutrality is in times where it's like, yes, like it's against like the racist lorry driver whose name is literally that, as well as Measurehead. And that is like where he's like these guys again. But even then, there's still like this aspect of like, yeah, this is horrible, but we need to focus on like what we're doing. Another thing about his neutrality that I think just makes his character really like believable is that when you do get these little bits and pieces about his personality, it feels so rewarding. My first time playing it, I didn't catch on to the fact that he just like loved cars because like I didn't really look into that stuff. But if he has to sell like the pieces to his car, like the like cosmetic pieces for the wheels to be able to pay for your like hotel, he seems disappointed by it. And at first you can interpret it as him being like upset with you, but it's actually just that he like clearly saved up for those or was really excited to get them. I think he had gotten them from like a case and didn't want to lose them. You can get, when going through his radio, realize that he listens to Speed Freaks FM, which is like the radio station for like car racers, and he's like modded out his like police car to like look really cool and like really nice, and he's protective over it. But he doesn't say these things out loud. You just kind of catch on to little details about it, and I think it's so satisfying. Another thing is like when you go to the Hanged Man and you're trying to like come up with a case name for it, like even he's like, yeah, like I do this as well, like God forbid their families ever hear about it, but I also like create like funny little names for the cases to just kind of get me through, like it as a means to almost like dehumanize the victim and the situation to be able to do his job efficiently. He has to do that. That small detail is just so real and like guttural. If you like throw up trying to get the body down, like he's immediately like, let's try to get you some like smelling salts. It's not like, there's not really shaming going on for it. But that being said, the moments of like positivity that you can sometimes get from him, the moments of negativity, whoo, it feels bad. Like getting chewed out by him, and like the moments where he's disappointed in you, like it really does feel like you messed up. I think his character is like just brilliantly done.
I mean, everything in the game is truly brilliantly done, but Kitsuragi in particular is just, wow, like fantastic writing. God please, that scene with knowing what happened with his past partner.
The corner of your eye, you see the lieutenant raise his pistol and aim it at Rude. He's trying to find a straight line of sight before the rifleman can take you out. In the background, the leader staggers for the next shot. Watch out. To your left, DePaul is about to take a shot too, at Kim.
God, please.
He's aiming for the eye slot in Rude's helmet. An extremely difficult shot. Nothing. A persisting darkness. Dancing lights of pain. Distant shadows cast by them. Like a hellish play.
You're bleeding out. Yes, keep talking. Stay awake. Look at me.
But you can't. It's so hard. Your eyelids grow heavy, and the sounds ever more distant. And a cold comes over you. The lieutenant, too, is somewhere far away, almost gone, when suddenly you sense something behind him. A slender white shadow towering. Someone stands there, raising her pistol at him. The lieutenant does not see it. He's pushing down on your wound with both hands. Scream immediately. He's gonna die.
My first time doing it, I like was nailing all of those checks. I shouldn't have been because I had low rolls, to be honest, on all of them. But the scene where it says Kitsuragi really trusts you and it adds those modifiers, like I have chills right now talking about it because it feels so good. Like it is just like, oh, I earned this. Like I started at this horrible, horrible spot. I have been bullying myself. I've been talking down to myself. My partner looked at me disappointed half of the time. I can't really get a read on him. I wrecked my motor carriage, but in this moment, I'm doing a good job and I protected him because he also really trusts me. It's amazing. Like it is just, oh, it's so well done. I love the tribunal. It's so good. Also, I would just like to throw in there the character design for this one. So cool. Like I literally, every single time I see it, I'm like, oh, you scare me, you're awesome. Yeah, like Kitsuragi in the beginning, especially like not really believing Harry and being like really skeptical about it. There's only a couple of characters that show like true sympathy towards Harry throughout the game. And that like that treatment from like the person that is with you the entire time, I think makes those little characters like mean more. So like Lena, like the washerwoman as well in the fishing village. Really, really, really cool. I love this topic. Okay, we're gonna talk about the Enceladian Fasmid. So, the Fasmid is a cryptid that it seems like it's gonna be like a minor background, like side quest, like just a kooky little quest line that turns out to be the core of the entire game. Like I'm not kidding, it is the reason behind everything. And in this category, of course, I'm going to talk about the deserter. I'm going to kind of combine it into one, just because I think that these topics go hand in hand, of course. First off, you meet Lena, and then she talks about her husband, and like you get all worried about her husband being like dead or something. Turns out the Phasmid's real. There is something just so gorgeous about the theme of the game kind of having to do with it all returns to nature at the end. Like this isn't humanity anymore, this is nature. The Fasmid is of course excreting like toxins, and the deserter who's been living on this island for years is being affected by these toxins, going crazy over the years.
the Fasmid has been like unseen. The first time they're ever like found is by Harry and Kim, or Harry and Kuno, depending on your run.
Masticated. The little bubbles begin to burst, one by one.
I exist. I am an unknown species of the order Phantasmadia, endemic to the Insulandian Insula. For the last 350 years, I have hidden in plain sight, masquerading as the reeds, molding, cloning myself, unfolding at night to play with trash bins and boys. I have stayed hidden through 4 forms of government and 2 scientific revolutions, until I was accidentally discovered by a detective of the citizen militia in Revachol, district of Martinaise, March 51.
First off, the photo I'm gonna show, I think it's gorgeous. It's again, like artist to artist moment. Whoever did that, like, oh my god. But also, Harry as a character is one that, even though you're playing as him, it can be rather hard to understand, and you get this theme throughout going through the game, that he is isolated. People don't like him, rightfully so. He's morally reprehensible. He has done just like terrible things. He's an addict as well, and that is a big part of his storyline, is the alcoholism due to his job stressing him out, like him being like completely overworked. The most empathy that we get is from a couple of random NPCs will sometimes like say like really like kind stuff, and then Kim has his own form of empathy, which we talked about before, that like neutrality is kind of empathy in a way. The Fasmid is the first time that Harry is understood.
Shapes of plants and animals, and internal sensations. A swarm of sounds, tiny vibrations on the inside of my forearms. All speak of complexities totally beyond my understanding. I am at the end of a narrow funnel, weightless, so light, it only feels like something to be me. In truth, perhaps I'm nothing. I certainly do not have a soul, and if I did, it would never ache. Are you sure? So am I. I was born to detect sucrose rewards and semiochemicals. What were you born to detect? He's in a bad state, deteriorating fast now. He thinks I am beneficial to him, but I am not. I only quicken his deterioration. Very slowly, and only because he won't go away. It is meant to keep them from noticing me, to interfere with the picture in your head. But he has looked at me for too long, and I am destroying him.
The Fasmid has this really like nice exchange with Harry. And it's so clear, it's just this innocent creature. And it says that I seek out levels of glucose and like sucrose and electrochemical reactions. And you as Harry have the option to go, me too. And this didn't immediately click for me for some reason, and I don't know if it clicks for everyone, just because like the game can be really wordy at times, so sometimes things can get missed. The reason why the Fasmid came out is because Harry smelled of alcohol. The only reason why this like miracle, this creature that people have been searching for, this wonder of the world, people have been wanting to see, was ever found was because of his profound, excessive use of alcohol and drugs. He's secreting into the air, like the smell of glucose, and having like these electrochemical reactions happening in his body that the Fasmid detected and came out for. And in a way, Harry is the same. You have the option to say, me too, I also am a creature that is seeking like electrochemical reactions. And it's true. Throughout the game, you walk past someone smoking, and it's like electrochemistry immediately pops up and is like, you should smoke that. You walk past a stain of alcohol on the table, electrochemistry is like, lick that off the table. And it's ridiculous, but oh my god, I love it. It is so interesting to see that, like, the Fasmid is the only thing that would see and understand Harry, even beyond us as like the person playing, because yes, we see like his thought process and we understand parts of him, but it's also really hard at times to be able to empathize with him and to care because of his actions. But this creature has no moral compass, doesn't really care for anything beyond just, you are like me, I am like you. And I think that that is genuinely such a cool part of the game. At first, the ending confused me and I didn't know how to feel about it. And so I gave it a couple of days. And this was my takeaway, is just that, like, sure, it didn't turn out to be like this, like, really, like, satisfying, like, noir, like, investigative, like, ending. Like, it just is like a character you don't know going into it, telling a story that is like heavily tied into the politics of the town, and you don't really fully understand all of the politics on that first run because, I mean, it's a lot. And it ties into, of course, hi Mimi, my cat's coming over, she wants to hear. It ties in, of course, to this Fasmid, this nature, this act of nature poisoning. She likes to be dribbled. Don't be fooled, she can walk away. But it ties into this act of nature, just like making humanity meaningless in a way. Reducing all of those actions, those interpersonal relationships, those complicated like series of events that led up to this and us going to the island, to a chemical reaction that was happening. And I think it's beautiful that this story about this character that is plagued by electrochemistry, is plagued by addiction, that the true villain is electrochemistry reaction. It's what he needed. It is this story that he needed to solve to be able to look at himself and go, this is something that hurts others. I think it's wonderful. Like, it's so unique. I've never seen a story like this before. And I think that if you don't sit down and like dissect it, you don't get to appreciate that detail there. I love it. Now onto the deserter. Of course, he acted out of this like kind of insanity that he went into due to the toxins from the Fasmid. But this kind of ties into the politics of the game as well. I love that no matter what you do in this game, you do kind of get made fun of. Like, whether you try to stay out of the politics of it, or if you try to pick a side, like, the game is gonna be like, oh, look at you. Like, no matter what, like, you get kind of made fun of. I think it's awesome. I love the deserter. His story is just absolutely enthralling. I was enchanted with every single line just by the devastation behind it. He was a part of the Communist Party. He was with like his like platoon, or like he was like stationed with a bunch of people at this fortress. And he got the notification that airships were coming to bomb. Now, if we take a look at what like the Communist Party is supposed to represent, it's the idea of like a community, like communal, like everyone, there's no individual, it is one. The deserter, it's given his name, deserted deserted the community. He didn't tell anyone. that there were going to be bombs, and he took himself to shelter. Everyone died. He did not give the people he worked with the chance to survive because he heard about the bombs and wanted to save himself. And it explores this idea of humans are always individual creatures and are always going to do the selfish thing. Humanity takes and takes and takes. The deserter is reprehensible as well. He's a character that is like, you abandoned everyone. It's in your name. And then he became obsessed with Clausier. And I kind of interpreted it as like his obsession with her is representative of seeing himself in another, because she deserted where she came from. He saw her arrive into town and knew that she was like fleeing something. And he saw that like familiarity. It reminds me of the quote from the very beginning of the game, the Furies live at home in the mirror, because I think he saw the worst parts of himself in her, and it turned into this like obsession. And of course, seeing her sleeping with the mercenary was like a spit in the face, because that's something he would never do. But I think he saw, like, in this weird, twisted sense, a piece of himself in that, because him deserting is like representative of him sharing the views of what he opposes. And so with seeing Clausier, someone who fled, sleeping with someone who is mercenary for the party in which he despises so much, drove him insane, because I think, once again, the Furies are at home in the mirror. He sees sort of like that self, like that version of himself right there. But that's just a theory. I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways it can be interpreted. He's a horrible, horrible person, but you can't help but kind of pity him. Not in a, oh, I wish this wasn't happening to you way, but just in like a, wow, like this world is sad and bleak. And everything that got pushed to this point, and like, this roots back to war and nature, and like the battle between humanity and the world that we live in. And to say, of course, the world is bleak is to take the responsibility off of humanity for making it bleak. At least to me, like, I mean, that's something we really, really learned throughout it, is the ugliness of everything is all human and war made. And something so beautiful as the Fasmid is something that is nature made. It's just doing what it should do. It's existing in an ecosystem that it was made for. It's exerting its self-defense mechanism, and that's what's making the deserter sick. But why should the Fasmid care? I mean, it doesn't have a reason to. Humanity, in fact, has hurt it quite a bit, but it doesn't really seem to mind, I guess. It has this innocence to it. Innocence, of course, being a big theme in it. But it's so childlike and just precious. It's like something you want to protect. And like having like this realization is just like, there's something out there that still is worth protecting. And that same thing is something that relates to Harry. And so to me, it's to say, like, there's still something within Harry that is worth protecting. There's still something within Harry that, like, there's still hope. And I think that ties back to, of course, the title of I Learn Elysium. I learn heaven, I learn afterlife and rebirth and like this new beautiful world. I think it draws me to just like speechless, like points. Like I feel myself like not able to find the words, and that's why I'm happy that I'm just kind of word vomiting, because writing it all down, I could precisely go over this, but it's not something that I can precisely like throw a dart at these different points. It's something I can pull these like emotions from, right? And I can talk about those emotions, and we can kind of speculate in a way together about those details, because I think that these like undercurrent themes happening are just so important to it, So minuscule, but so crucial. I don't know. I know that like most of this video, like I kind of said, like we're going over mundane details, and I'm definitely going over the big ones too. But truthfully, part of it's just because I want to talk about it. I love this game. It is hands down my favorite game of all time. Playing it is more like walking through a museum with just the most jaw-dropping art that you've ever seen. Another detail is when you find the other dead body on the docks by the fishing village, going to tell the woman. It's like these earth-shattering moments where you are the one to deliver the bad news, you are the one to know all of these things, and seeing in real time it laid out like how your words will impact someone for the rest of their life, and exploring that. Like that scene was hard. Another beautiful scene that not everyone gets is going into the apartment complex and the architect, like the shivers of the architect, like planning out the building and seeing what's become of it, is one of the most like accurate depictions of the passage of time and the impact of humanity's blight on things around it. I mean, it's just fallen to shambles over time, but it was once beautiful. God, it's hard to figure out what to even say. What's up? I hope you guys liked the video. It probably seemed a little bit all over the place because it kind of was. I filmed it over the course of a year and edited it over the course of since May. And what month is it? So 3 months. Edited over the course of 3 months. Which isn't too bad, but you know. It's my first video in several years, and obviously it means a lot to me. I had mentioned at the beginning that there is a project that I wanted to talk about, and I'm very excited to announce the fact that I am working on a video game. Me and my friend are making one. I'm doing the art, the coding, and the writing, and it's based on a world that I created for my D&D game, actually. And he's doing all of the music. It is what I like to call an exploration on humanity's achievements and its consequences of those achievements, but it is very much an allegory and exploration on climate change and the way that humanity is impacting the world. It follows a robotic nuclear-powered cat named Alara, after the nuclear code, as low as reasonably achievable, as she goes and embarks on a journey to learn more about the Wardens of Consequence, which are these deities that were born out of the plagues of humanity, so things like landfills and fossil fuels and whatnot. I'm really excited about it. I have progress. I'm hopefully going to be able to show it on screen now, and that is probably going to be the last thing before I end my video. I wanted to share it because I felt like if you enjoyed this type of thing, Disco Elysium, you'll probably enjoy, not to say that my writing is nearly as good, but you'd probably enjoy at least the message behind my game as well. So, yeah. Thank you all so much.